And it's coming. And it's not going to stop. And there's nowhere for us to go. The roadies had somewhere to go. The South Africans of the aughts had somewhere to go. Some of the stories I've heard, people being pulled apart, people having power tools used on them, things you wouldn't believe. It's all real. And when you hear the news lie and tell you it's all fake, this is what they've got for us. This is what they've got in store for us. They're going to kill us. They're going to kill us and they're going to laugh about it, man. They're going to kill and laugh because they're killing and laughing at the Sufis the same way they killed and laughed at the roadies. It's coming. And we're going to have nowhere to run. Nowhere to run.
No, go ahead.
I love South African people. They're some of the nicest people I've ever met. They're good people. It's just so frustrating sometimes when I talk to them because they get out of there. And we all know why they got out of there. But they'll tell you straight up and down. Like they'll tell you shit like oh no, he was a good guy. What's his name? That fucking terrorist nigger.
Oh no, wait, Rand.
Sorry, that terrorist black man who set fire to people. Sorry, it's not okay to say that word. But apparently it's okay to become a president for 12 years when you set fire to people.
Rand. I don't personally care, but look.
I think you'd care if it was someone you knew.
No, I'm saying I don't personally care about what you say, but look, we have to keep a certain level of decorum, and I've slipped up myself on occasion. I will be honest, but just remember that we're on air here, and try to keep that in mind.
I understand that. You gotta scrub all that away because, well, not because anyone's upset. It's because malicious people are able to snigger and say, ooh, now I've got an excuse to like scrub out some dissenting opinion. And they'll do that. And that's what's so fucking infuriating about it. People are fucking dying and you got that fucking cat-owning bitch with her multi-dyed hair with her fucking eraser going, oh, someone said a nerdy word on a stream. Oh, we're going to take that away. People are dying. It's disgusting. In the early aughts, I joined the military, and one of my squatties was a roadie, and not a roadie. It was a South African, and I didn't know anything about it at the time. I was just a young lad, and I was just 17. And the stories he told me, they didn't make sense. They didn't make sense. This was in like 2003. I didn't think about it for a long, long time. Think about it now. It's amazing how long this has gone on without anybody paying attention to it. It's amazing the effort that's being put to make sure that nobody pays attention to it now.
You're right. At least people are talking about it now. That's the thing. A lot of people didn't know about it beforehand. It's coming to light. You know, more people are talking about it. Tucker talked about it.
Exactly. It's
Trump talked about it.
So here is a, how do I put this? This is a secret of the right-wing reactionary political movement in current day and historically, right? So there is a pervasive idea that fascists want to make empathy forbidden and sympathy forbidden and feelings forbidden. That's not entirely true. with all the time that I've spent studying this stuff, what they want is to control and direct your natural sense of empathy. They want to shame you for expressing empathy and identifying with their designated unpersons. In the United States, these unpersons would include immigrants from Central and South America. This would include immigrants from Africa. There's a broad, they don't want you to sympathize with gay couples. They don't want you to sympathize with the needs of transgender people, and so on and so forth. So they will call you a bleeding heart crybaby whenever you show sympathy for one of these groups that they perceive as hostile to their agenda or as like a political obstacle. And sort of make the premise that feeling for these people, well, they'll construct a narrative on why these people either deserve to suffer or deserve to be imprisoned or deported or annihilated, because there is time to punish them for their inequities and their degeneracy and all that stuff. But the flip side of this coin, as you watch this fascist content and you examine how their minds work, is another component of their propaganda is eliciting empathy and sympathy for their preferred victims, and largely the most egregious part of this is that the majority of the designated victims, majority, like 99.998% of the designated victims of the alt-right's conspiracies are not victims, or they are not being victimized by the alt-right's preferred enemies. So, for example, Randbot here, who I've confronted a handful of times on these alt-right platforms, is having a cry about an imaginary genocide of white people in South Africa and Rhodesia. I'm not going to say that he's being disingenuous, because he seems to be having a real visceral, emotional reaction to his own conspiracy theory. But the relevance of that is basically negligible. I mean, Alex Jones cries about stupid shit that he makes up too. Maybe a piece of it is theater. Maybe, maybe in Rambot's case is he really fucking believes that some Schindler's List type shit is happening to white kids in South Africa because of the ANC government or some other bullshit about Zulu kings. There's a couple of different layers of conspiracy theory to the South African genocide, white genocide bit. Now, again, I always have to put this disclaimer because otherwise people are going to make videos about me being a psychopath or something. There is a crime problem in South Africa, and there are casualties of this crime problem who are white. They're not a huge majority. They're roughly 60% of these farm murders, which Randbot won't cry for the 40% of black African farm workers who were being exterminated and tortured as well for days and hours. He doesn't give a fuck about those people. He gives a fuck about little blonde-haired girls exclusively. So, the victims of crime and murder and torture in South Africa, I do feel great sympathy for them, and I do hope that the governments that are accountable take the appropriate steps to remedy this social ill that is being fed by destructive economic inequality and being fed by inadequate oversight from local law enforcement because of the whole neoliberal economic program depriving local police departments of adequate funding or whatever. I care, but I'm not going to let my empathy be exploited for sake of a conspiracy theory. Alex Jones would go on little jags like this about Pizzagate. That was horse shit. He would cry about the little children being supposedly being sexually exploited by Comet Pizza and blah blah blah, so on and so forth. There's a part of this that is just kind of selling preferred victims. And what's funny is when you ask any of these alt-right talkers, what the remedy is, it's very cult-like. You know what I mean? Like for example, when you're an evangelical Christian, every answer just happens to be surrender your life and belonging to the church. And when it's Scientology, oh no, well, you're having a bad day, and the water went out on your house. Scientology will fix that. Oh, it's a rainy day. Scientology will fix that. Your car broke down. My prescription: donate more money to Scientology. It's the same thing with the white nationalist cult. It is. American people in the Midwest are dying of drug overdoses from opiates. We need some white nationalism to fix that. People are being killed in a crime spree in South Africa. White nationalism. If we had just put apartheid back, and you'll hear American alt-righters with the same shit when they talk about crime, supposedly this disproportionate crime of black people against white people in America. The same shit. It just so happens to be that economic remedies are not relevant, political remedies are not relevant. All that matters is, coincidentally, the only fix for any problem is white nationalism. If they could only restore Jim Crow, then everybody would be more happy, including the blacks. So I don't think that this case is like crocodile tears, because it seems like this dude's drunk and he's not really in possession of his feelings. But also, it's not that I can't cry for the victims of farm murders. It's that it's difficult for me to make a show of this expression of sympathy because it has been politicized. They have made it impossible for me to make a profound expression of grief for the victims of these crimes, because then they will go, then you have to acknowledge there's a genocide in Africa, and you have to acknowledge that it's systematic and that it's classified by the UN as they just kind of make it so that just having feelings means that you owe their agenda somehow, because of course they'll make sure that the only remedy to this stuff is either separation or extermination of the hostile group. So there's a tragic part of this where you kind of have to keep your feelings close to the chest, because they will, if they work on you long enough and you are an empathetic person, you might fumble into this trap of being twisted, having genuine feeling twisted against you, and bringing you to some pretty destructive positions and political stances. I've always said there are remedies for the situation in South Africa. I've always said that there are remedies in terms of wealth redistribution. What's funny is that the number one thing that would stem these farm murders is the number one issue that the alt-right is against, which is land redistribution. No one is going to rob a farm when it's not being held by 5% of the population while the other 95% starve. If you hold this disproportionate amount of wealth, and again, I'm not justifying or saying that showing up because you've been put out economically and then killing and torturing people is acceptable. But if you bunker up with the majority of a country's wealth, you can bet that there's going to be some contingent of people that are going to break off, and they're probably going to be pretty resentful of the fact that you are engaging in massive land hoarding.